Why, hello there. How are you doing? What do you mean, do I have any big sisters here? I don't have a big sister. I fucking live by myself. Weirdos. Get the hell out of here. Hello, everyone. Hopefully you're not scared of your relatives, because today we're going to be checking out your big sister in my big sister. Which wouldn't make it yours any well. Anyway, my big sister, the other game that comes with the physical duo pack of point click style little adventure games that came from PlayAsia. Last month we went over Just Ignore Them. This time we're going over the other game, as said, My Big Sister. Now, this game is a mixed bag as well. It has a number of improvements over some of the complaints I had for Just Ignore Them, while having possibly worse problems. Let's get into it. So first thing, let's get to about the game storyline real quick. It is, well, about the main character's sister. They basically get changed into a fucking monster, and you basically go through a quest in trying to reverse this process. Again, as I mentioned and Just Ignore Them, there are a few references, possible links to the experiments from Just Ignore Them, so there could be a direct connection, though I don't know that 100% myself in that particular fashion. This is a still very adventure game style thing, but it is a little less point and clicky. This time now, you actually control your character directly with a control pad, as opposed to having a cursor like in Just Ignore Them. I feel this works way better if you're gonna have like a console version, because having a cursor on a console version is just usually kind of weird. Not unplayable, but kind of weird. I feel like the only consoles that really benefit from that is stuff like the DS and the Wii, that obviously had control schemes that actually complemented those kind of things. But like on a traditional controller, it's just kind of weird. But it's doable. But I think it complements it a lot better. But you continue to still have a inventory where you can find stuff, interact with things, and have to solve puzzles and codes and things like that. So, generally, the usual shenanigans, but more simple down. If Just Ignore Them was Dragon Quest 1, then, well, My Big Sister is several JRPGs later, where you don't have to select a button in your menu to go downstairs, basically. If that makes sense. Graphically, it's also improved. I like the aesthetic style they went for with My Big Sister. I think it looks a lot more professional and better looking than the character sprites and that did in Just Ignore Them. Well, like I said, they do have a uneasy kind of character stick to them in the game. It just felt kind of to me. So I honestly gotta say, My Big Sister was a big improvement when it comes to the aesthetics and everything. Sound effects and music also more better, because Just Ignore Them had a lot of moments that were just dead silent a lot of time. There's a lot more better music in My Big Sister that feels a lot more appropriate and everything for the scenes they're going for. And I really did like the direction the story went, minus the problems we'll get into when we talk about that. Now, the game is broken up into a chapter system, and when you finish the game, you can jump around those chapters. So, similar to Just Ignore Them, you can go back to chapters this time and actually kind of mess around with options and stuff. Now, there are multiple endings in the game too, but basically these all come at the end. There's not really a big, how should I say, a big reason to worry about your actions leading up to the end. Basically, at the end, you can make all the necessary choices that will lead to all the different endings in there. So, in general, that pretty nice. So, the big problem with the game, though, as much as a lot of improvements were done on the game compared to just ignore them, I have to say, there was a lot of technical problems with the physical build, at least. So, I generally try to play unpatched physicals for the most part. There's a few exceptions, like Souls games, because I enjoy the online aspects of them. So, I think it is important to note that kind of stuff. So, I have noticed a few weird little AOL problems, technicality-wise. I did have an incident where a text box for the warp on the train vanished, but otherwise, I didn't have a lot of problems until the end. Actually, during this recording of footage, I did encounter another problem. While I never used the skip function, I did use it in the force section of the game, and this actually caused a weird problem with like the sister vanishing but still being talkable. It was odd. But the main problem here is the endings become a whole freaking shitfest. So there are multiple problems with endings. Now, if you solely care about trophies, I remember properly, only one trophy could not get unlocked without the game crashing. All the others, you could get the trophy, but sometimes still have it crashing through the snow. So the last page ending is the only one that fully played without crashing. Every other ending crashes at some point, but you can still get the trophies for all of them except the loop to trigger before the crash. So while you can get the good endings and see most of it, it does crash at some point in the IG. The true ending crashes before the tree swing part. There are videos that show it does have new text compared to the other endings. So, yeah, you don't get the full experience in the physical version. Now, I don't know if there's a patch that fixed these, and honestly, it probably wouldn't be shocking if there wasn't, but I don't actually know.
Hello, this is future me sending a message back to you. After spending ages researching for anyone else that played this cart build, I finally found one, and they had some interesting info as they paid for the digital version also on top of the cart copy. From Play Isa, it seems the bugs found in this build according to this user does seem to be only problem in physical build only. They also claim the first ending you get will play normal, but when go for any other ending the game crashes like it did for me. I will be testing this when I get free time. Do I have delete my whole game and start over? I will pin a comment on if find anything else new related this.
Now you do want to remember I am playing on the Vita version. It is good to note that this game is on PC, Xbox, and you do have it on PS4 as well, oddly enough. That's crazy. It's also on the eShop. And you can also get DRM free on itch.io, which is also very nice. And it's interesting to note that this game does actually have a remaster that came out recently that is, as far as I can tell, it's only on PC right now, which you can still also get that one DRM free on itch.io as well. So that is a very nice thing to do there, because sadly a lot of devs start on itch.io and then they kind of move away with it. So it's always nice to see a dev still putting the games on their itch.io page, because I've seen so many times where I'd find a game used to have an itch.io page and then fucking shut down because it's like, oh, we got super popular, let's just be on Steam now. Honestly though, being a potential sequel, but at most a spiritual sequel as an evolution of the gameplay mechanics of the Force title this group did here, though, I do think they did a pretty nice evolution in the aesthetics of everything, the mood in that, but I feel like the game needed more time in the oven, at least for the Vita version. And I don't know if a lot of these problems carry over into the other versions, which this is the only physical version is this duo pack at the time of this video. So I don't know if any of these issues exist on any of the other versions. So I would recommend doing some research if you're going to check those out. I would hope the PC versions probably are, I would hope, more fixed than this version. So if that's the case, that I would probably go with the HBO version. But I don't know the condition of them. Honestly, it's a shame because honestly, I liked the story and a lot of the different endings for this title way more than Just Ignore Them. Just Ignore Them, I think, was, well, something you could really ignore. But this one I felt like actually had the potential to be something more worth checking out. But at least for the version we're reviewing here, it's a tough sale considering the game is outrageous price. I mean, just when it was actually brand new from PlayAsia, still a whip-off to me, but let alone the fact that, you know, of course it being sold out, it's now more expensive, and that's just like, yikes! And it's just a real shame. Now, this is $5.99 on all platforms. That's always nice. Because if I remember correctly, Just Ignore Them was $1 more on console, so I do like the being more universally the same price everywhere. And it is also to point out, if you're interested in the remastered version, that goes for $7.99. And I will look into maybe throwing a little segment or some photos from that to compare a few scenes possibly to this version, so you can get a little idea of whether you want to go for that version. I can't speak for the remaster, I haven't played it, but I can tell you from the trailer that some things were changed. For example, the train section. The train section in this version that you're seeing, that we're talking about here, one's up and down, but the train section in the remaster goes left and right, side to side. So they changed up a few things, and some of the environments do look a lot more nicer detail from the trailer, but I don't know if it's necessarily the superior version. So if you want to get also a better idea on that, you might want to look into a review talking about the remastered possibly. And I don't know if there's new content in the remaster either. It doesn't really make any mention of it as far as I can tell on the Steam page for it, as far as I can tell. So it just seems to be a remaster for the most part. So overall, this is a pretty quick little review for the overall. It's a little adventure game. I felt like it had more of a nicer spark versus the other game, but the fact that all the endings except for one are completely fucking broken. Like, I had to literally go to YouTube to finish off each of the endings where they crash and shit, which is a huge shame because, like I said, there's two endings in particular I think that were really interesting in a psychological way. Admittedly, you can get most of that, at least in the playthrough, but still the fact that it crashes at some point during them is still a shame, and it sucks that the physical version was in this condition. Which is a shame, because in my opinion, if it wasn't for those, I would call it the more superior game out of the two myself in this little collection. So it is a tremendous shame. So what would I give the value of this game? Again, these are pretty cheap games on PC and even digitally, and you can get them on free. So this is a tough one, because I can't speak for the other versions of this game personally, because obviously I haven't played them. But if assuming they function better, I think $5.99 is not actually a bad price. However, for this Pacific version for the Vita, and specifically the physical build, because like I said, I don't know if it has a patch that fixes this shit. But for the physical build of this, I have to say, this collection's a big stinker. And, like, getting it digitally, like the Vita version digitally, if they actually patched and fixed this, then, yeah, the $5.99 I wouldn't think is a bad price. But, honestly, like, even with just ignore them, this physical version's just a big whip off. It's a sad state and shit. I can't really like it. This thing shouldn't even be more than fucking $10, honestly. This is a very disappointing physical version, and it's just a shame it's in this condition. It really is. Both of these games have problems, and the better one has even more problems than the other one, and it's a real shame. And it just, I can't really recommend the Vita physical version, at least. Like I said, if the digital versions did get patches, then by all means, if you want to check them out that way. But this physical version, I would skip it, honestly. It's too much fucking scalping price, and it's not worth it. Especially when you can get them on Itch.io DRM free. Like, even if they were just as broken as the Vita versions, that's obviously the better route to go, in my opinion, because it's at least not a huge fucking whip-off. It's just really ridiculous how much this shit is. But it's a shame. I am curious of checking out some of the other Kratos games, possibly on Itch.io, maybe. Because like I said, they've looked like, I've looked at stuff from different ones, and they seem to have a loose connection to each other, and they seem to slowly build more and more with each game. So I am curious to check out more titles of them. So I maybe one day might check out another one of those titles one day on Itch.io, maybe. Or maybe if they have an physical console release or something. But this was a stinker. It was really disappointing. And the main problem is these games have been out for a while. So the physical Vita version came out in October 2021. Though these titles, at least My Big Sister, according to the PS4 store page, is dated for 2019, which I would imagine it's the same kind of build as the Vita version, because usually, you know, the PS4 and Vita usually had the games come out at the same time, and it's usually be crossover. And the shitty thing is the PlayStation Store doesn't list Vita shit anymore, so it makes that a little tricky. So if all this information is accurate, that would mean there was about like a year of time, likely, unless it like, I mean, even if it came out at like the tail end of 2019. Well, no, wait. Yeah, it said 2019. So on the blog it says it came out. Yeah, so I mean it's longer. So in theory, that actually makes me think, unless it's a situation like that one survival horror game on the Switch where it actually had a unique bug in the physical build, but not in the digital version. Unless it's something like that. That, in my opinion, likely means that it actually has probably not been fucking fixed if the physical build came out like that. That's pretty concerning, actually. That's pretty concerning. Sadly, though, my attempts to actually get more information on this has not been very well met. Sadly, there isn't a lot of details on bugs I could find. Sadly, I'm probably one of the I'm probably one of the only fucking people to play this build of this fucking game. So honestly, I don't fucking know. Like, I don't know if any of this is just the physical version, the digital and physical, if it's been patched. I can't actually find any information on any of that. But honestly, unless there's a patch, this physical version is a stinker. And of course, as I always like to say, for down the road when you won't be able to get that patch anymore, it's just a shame. So, I would hope the PC version is well built, but you will likely want to check someone who's actually went over those versions. Myself, I would probably just stay away from the Vita versions, because as far as I can tell from according to the information I see about when it came out and that, it just seems like this either the physical version got bugged, which has happened before, where the digital version's fine but the physical version got bugged, or that this game has not been fixed. And that obviously sucks. But it is what it is. I don't really think this is worth getting these Vita versions at the end of the day, so. But those are my thoughts. So, let's get into spoilers. What did I find really interesting about this game? So, you kind of go on this little sister, big sister, little journey trying to get home and finding a way to turn your sister back into a human for the monster she is. And you get, it's kind of like, I get this, like, attempt to be kind of like, Spirited Away, that's what it was. And there's literally a scene that feels like it's literally a nod at My Neighbor Totoro. I'm saying that wrong, I know. But I feel like they were really going for kind of like a Spirited Away kind of vibe when it comes to the journey of this. It kind of gives me a lot of vibes in that. Could just be me in that, but hey, I don't know. But that's what I thought. But what I found interesting is the endings. There's a lot of weirdo endings, and they can all be taken different ways. And it really leaves the story really open-ended on what the fuck was, well, real. I don't know if any of the other games even possibly help in understanding what might be the true ending in this game, but two of the endings that are the most interesting is that you're in a fucking coma, and that your big sister is at the hospital after getting in a car crash with you and you going into a fucking coma. And what's interesting is all the people at the hospital and shit are all representing people and things that will through the story of the game, which is really interesting. It kind of gives that kind of Wizard of Oz kind of moment where at the end where you're like, and you were there, and you were there, and you were there. But what gets really interesting is there are two complete different ways this ending can end. There's the happy ending where you wake up and everything's like, oh, it's just another day in life. And then there's a really creepy ending where fucking everyone gets murdered and shit. And you're just like, what the fuck happened? And it has like little references to several of the characters, orcs and shit in some of their deaths too. It's really fucking creepy. And again, these endings crash. So you don't even get the full experience of them. Which is a shame. A shame. A real shame. Again, Vita version. It's a weird shame, because honestly, if it wasn't for the fucking game-breaking fucking endings, like, honestly, I would recommend My Big Sister, but my experience with the version I got is just meh. It's just a good game with game-breaking problem. Like, it's just, there's nothing worse than having some point through the game being unfinishable, especially when it's multiple endings you can't even experience. let alone them being a mix of the good endings that you can't even fully experience. It's not even the fact that, like, you know, you can at least get the good ending and the West are broken. It's like, it's just meh. It's a real disappointment. Honestly, and the sad shame is this was one of the last releases that PlayAsia did for the Vita. And it's a real shame because, you know, there was some really nice bangers here that PlayAsia did for the Vita, and like the last several just all look like whimpering farts. Sadly, it's a real shame for it to end that way on really shelfware shit. So, I really wanted to try and be nice to these two games, but it's just when your game can't even be finished, it's just bullshit in my opinion. That's one of the worst things you could do is make it where you sell a game that can't be finished. That is horrible in my opinion, but that's just me. Some people can look past that for some reason. But anyway, those are my thoughts on My Big Sister. Big shame. Again, though, if this seems interesting, I would try and check out some people who've played either other systems versions or specifically check out some reviews for the PC versions. But I can't recommend the Vita versions. They don't seem like they'll complete, and I can't tell if it's just the physical version or the digital version also, so I can't really recommend the Vita version. It's a shame, but it's a dud. It's a dud.